For the past few years, I've been looking for ways how to save money on card making. And one of those ways is using digital stamps. And in this video, I will show you some places where you can get them, how to download them, print them. I will give you some tips about the printers as well as the cardstock. I wanted this video to be detailed as possible, but if I forgot something, make sure you ask in the comments. There are also chapters if you wish to skip to a specific part. Hello everyone and welcome. For those who are new here, my name is Katarina and on this channel I make greeting cards, for the most part. As I said, I've been looking for ways how to make cards without spending too much money and actually avoid buying new products as much as possible. I already made a video with tips on how to make budget-friendly cards. I will leave the link to it in the description below and at the end of this video. That video is just a list of tips on how I save money on card making, and now I want to go through each tip in more detail with more specific examples, starting with digital stamps. If you are new to digital stamps and don't know what they are simply images that are just the outlines that you can find online, download, print, and then color, just like you would with normal stamps. So they are perfect for those of you who love coloring. And digital stamps is just a more specific term. Of course, you can use any image that you find online, but be careful about the copyright. You do not want to get into trouble. And that's why in this video I want to concentrate on images that are specifically labeled as digital stamps that you can get from proper stores. There are official places where you can get digital images for free, but that I will leave for another video. And even if you buy stamps, the prices are quite low, or you can get a very good deal with multiple images in one file. Plus, you do not have to pay for shipping. And this is what makes digital stamps budget-friendly. You could argue that you need a printer. Actually, you need a specific printer that prints on thicker cardstock. But even if you can just print on a printer paper, either at home or at work, you can always do the transfer technique. I'm not gonna go through this technique in this video, but I did this technique in the past. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will leave a link in the description to one of those videos. So where you can get digital stamps? What you can do first is just Google. I searched for digital stamps, also DisDigiStamps is a term. I also added card making to make it more specific, and I got a lot of results. Not to make this video too complicated, I will just concentrate on two. And the first one is probably going to be one of my favorites, and that is Etsy. I already knew that you can get digital stamps on Etsy, but I did not look into it more closely before now. While I didn't buy any stamps yet, that's why I'm saying it's going to probably become my favorite shop. I found a lot of really beautiful stamp sets. Some of them you can see on the screen. I will leave the links to them in the description below if you are interested. The prices seem to be great, especially for what you are getting, and I will be definitely getting some of them in the future. The next place where I found some digital stamps, and that's where I got the stamps for this video, is JoKavanaghDesigns. They sell normal stamps, but also offer some stamps in a digital form. The prices are okay, they are not much different from the physical stamps, but you don't pay for shipping, and they also offer a few stamps for free. And that's how I got the digital stamps for this video. I got two, and one of them I already used in my last week's video. Even though I didn't purchase the image, I had to go through the same process. While every shop has their own process, most of the time it's very similar. On the JoKavanaghDesigns website, I got this stamp with a bear holding a cupcake. I first added it to the cart or a shopping basket, and then I clicked on a checkout. You can continue shopping and do the checkout later. At the checkout, I filled all the required information. If this was not a free stamp, then I would need to add a payment method. On the next page, you will get the download button. You can click on it and download the image. The download button might take a few seconds to appear. You will also get an email with a download link. When you click on it, you will be transferred to the website where you can download the file. After you press the download button, you will be asked to choose a location where you want to save the file. So pick your location and click Save. The download most of the times is going to be a zip file, and you will need to unzip it or extract the files. This is nothing complicated. On a Mac, what I have, you just double click. On an iPad or iPhone, you tap on the file. On a Windows, you should be able to right-click and select something like Extract All. That's at least what the internet says. So this is how you download the digital stamps. You can print the image directly, or you can do a little bit of prep work, which is something I like to do. I like to put an image into a document, adjust the size, add a greeting. You can also add additional images and so on. Normally I use the software Affinity Designer or Affinity Photo to do the prep work. This is something like Photoshop or Illustrator, just without the annoying subscription. But since not everybody has this software, for this video I will be using Google Docs Editor or Workspace. Not sure what the bundle of the software is called. You can use whatever software you already have and feel comfortable with. The process should be similar. I'm actually going to use Google Slides, which is the equivalent to PowerPoint or Keynote. I like to work with a document in the size of my card, which for me is A6, similar to A2 in the US. In Google Docs, you cannot adjust the document to this size, but in Google Slides, you can. To find Google Slides, you can just Google it or click at the top right corner and scroll down and select Slides. If you are not signed in, you will be asked to do so. I started with a blank presentation, just clicking on the plus at the top. The first thing I wanted to do is to remove all the text. To do so, I clicked on the layout at the top and I picked blank, which is completely at the bottom. Next, I adjusted the size. To do this, I selected File and then Page Setup. In the pop-up window, I selected Custom. I changed also to metric system. You don't have to do that if you are using Imperial. And then I inserted my measurements. For the vertical size, it's 10.5 centimeters times 14.8 centimeters. And then I pressed Apply. Next, I inserted the image. You can either drag and drop, or you can click on Insert at the top, select Image, and click on Upload from Computer. Find your image, go to the location where you saved it, and click Open. Here we can adjust the size, send it, resize the image. To resize, click on the image. You can use these little squares and make it bigger or smaller. Or after you click on the image, select Format options at the top, then on the left, select Size and Rotation, and here you can change the size. I would recommend to lock the aspect ratio, otherwise it would look weird. You can also add a greeting by selecting the text box option and then click somewhere on the page for the text box to appear. Write your greeting. I also want it to be centered, and of course I like to change the font and the size. The font section is limited, but you have the option to add more fonts. In the end, I didn't use a greeting because I didn't have a specific occasion in mind. Technically, I can print it later, but more likely what I will do is use a stamp or stamped banner or a die-cut sentiment. Let me quickly show you what I did with the image with the mouse. The image comes with a greeting, which I didn't need. I was making a card for an anniversary and I also wanted to fussy cut. To remove the greeting, I just cropped it out. To crop the image, I double clicked on it and then I moved these black lines that appear above the blue squares. After I was happy with the crop, I clicked somewhere outside of the image. Of course, you can print it with the greeting and then fussy cut, but I wanted to print 2 images on one page and that's why I needed to crop. And now I'm ready to print. Before I go through the printing process, especially the printing settings, let's talk about the printers. I am definitely not an expert on printers, but there are a few things to be aware of. First, what you want to be looking for is if the printer can print on a heavyweight cardstock. The best place to check this is the website of the printer, and you want to be looking for words like heavyweight cardstock, thick cardstock, 300 GSM, or in the US that would be 140 pounds, which is the weight of a watercolor cardstock like Canson XL. What I've noticed, most of these printers have two ways of feeding the paper. One is the main tray where you put the bulk of your printer paper and it takes the paper automatically. And the other one is located either in the front or in the back and you feed the paper manually. The next thing to look into, especially if you like to use wet mediums like alcohol markers, watercolors, is if you can get waterproof ink cartridges for that printer. As far as I know, this only applies to inkjet printers. Laser printers should be waterproof. I have a laser printer, so I cannot help you with this, but I've seen videos where people did discuss this, and if I find them again, I will link them in the description. Overall, what you want to be looking for is if that printer can print on a thicker cardstock, and with inkjet printer, if you can get waterproof ink. If you have any other suggestions, let me know in the comments. I'm going to be talking about the cardstock as well. I did a little bit of testing. I tested a few different types of cardstock, but let's print first and let's talk about a few settings that you want to be adjusting. Normally, to get to the printer settings, you select File and then Print. But since I'm using a browser, this creates a PDF, either a download window pops up or in Firefox a new tab opened. So the easiest here is just to download a file. So a little detour, you can skip this if you are using a software that can print right away. To download the file, in the slides window, select File and then Download. There are a few options you can select. You can select PDF, but I prefer PNG. Not sure if there is any difference. In the pop-up window, select where you want the file to be saved and then click on Save. Next, find the image where you saved it and double-click on it to open. And from here, the steps should be the same as you would print from Pages, Keynote, Word or PowerPoint that is saved on your computer. Go to File and select Print, and here you will get the printer settings. What I like to change here or make sure it's selected, first is the paper size, making sure it's the same size as the one where I did the prep work, so for me it's a 6. Then I go to Media and Quality, and under Quality I have 3 options and I like to use Best. If you have anything better, use that. Still in Media and Quality, under Media Type, select Heavyweight Cardstock or similar. Before I just used automatic and this setting was for me a game changer. You might also have to select the feed of the paper. My printer selects it automatically. And that's it. That's the setting I use and would be looking for no matter what device, operating system or printer I would be using. And now I can print. My printer is from Brother. It's a laser printer and only prints in black. This printer has the front feed. There are 2 adjustable things, so you can adjust the width of the paper. I placed the cardstock in this tray and then I went back to the computer and pressed print. And because I used a smaller cardstock, on my printer I have to lift this lid to reach the cardstock. And here it is, here is the printout. By the way, the reason why I prefer to print on a smaller cardstock, first of all, I don't make cards in bulk. I make usually 1 or 2 cards. I don't like to print in advance. And also I want to prevent clogging or bad and smudged printing. You just need to test and experiment yourself to see what works. And talking about testing, As I said, I did a little bit of testing. I used different types of cardstock. I tested 6 of them. I also went through it with my finger to see if there's any smudging. Keep in mind, every printer is different and sometimes it's just the paper does not work with the ink. So here they are. The first one is the Bristol cardstock from Canson. It's 200 grams, 110 pounds. You can see this one doesn't smudge. The next one is the Neenah Solar White. I think it's 216 grams. This one also doesn't smudge. And recently I bought a cardstock from House of Cards, 250 grams, just like the Canson. And here the ink doesn't smudge either. And the image looked printed very well on all of them. I did test the Bristol and Neenah with wet mediums. For the Bristol, I used the Zig watercolor markers. I used it also with water and no smudging. It really held up very well. With the Neenah cardstock, I used alcohol markers from Otanu. I applied a lot of ink, blending the colors together and no smudging. So if you are using any of these coloring mediums and have this cardstock, check it out. The next 3 types of cardstock I tested is a watercolor cardstock. I just used what I can get in the country where I live. And spoiler alert, they all smudged. They also reacted with water. Let me first show you the examples, because after that I did a little bit of research, I tested again and had more success. The first one is Florence by Vasan Creative, and it's thinner watercolor cardstock. It's only 200 GSM, around 80 pounds, so you cannot use too much water with this one. It surprised me that it smudged because I didn't have problems when coloring a pumpkin for Halloween where I used watercolor markers. The next one is a watercolor cardstock from Flying Tiger. It's 300 GSM, 140 pounds, and it has a little bit of texture, but unfortunately the ink smudged. The last I really wanted to test, as I didn't have any success in the past, is Canson XL. Last time I printed on a full sheet and it all got smudged in the printer, so this time I used a smaller cardstock and it printed well. Actually, all of them printed well until I used my finger to see if they smudge. I also used a water pen to see if the ink reacts with it, and unfortunately it did. This was a little bit disappointing. However, as I said, I didn't want to give up and I did a little bit of research. The first thing I found is the setting for the paper. I did not use the setting for heavyweight paper. After I tried it, it was much better. The difference in printing was it was printing much slower, but there was still a little bit of smudging. And then I remembered when I was reading about laser printers that there is a heat element that sets the ink. And I thought, why not to try using a laminator? I tested the Canson XL watercolor cardstock. I ran it through the laminator before and after I printed, and guess what? No smudging. Woohoo! So here is my second test. I just tested the Canson XL since it's the thickest. As I said, I ran it through the laminator before and after I printed, but I think after printing is completely enough. And then I tested if there is any smudging, and I also did a little bit of watercoloring. You can see here I went through the image with my finger and it did not smudge. And then I decided to do a little bit of watercoloring, and here you can see it in a close-up. I had no problems, there was no smudging. I didn't read anywhere about using the laminator after printing, but it seems to work. So if you have a laser printer and a laminator, give it a try and let me know if it works for you as well. The issue seems to be only with the watercolor cardstock. As you saw with the Bristol and Neenah, there I did not have any problems. Alright, that's it. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any questions, just ask in the comments. Check out my video with more tips on how to make budget-friendly cards, And make sure you subscribe because I will be making a video very soon where you don't need a fancy printer. A simple printer is enough. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.